Obviously, I don't have to give my kidney to anyone, but I'd like to know if I'm morally in the wrong for this or if it's an unreasonable request. Sorry if it's long. I'm 23M and have two brothers. James, 29M, and Damion, 37M. Our parents were horrible to me. Can't get into much detail for reasons, but it started when my dad cheated, back when I was 11, and they both hated each other but refused to divorce. So they took it out on me because James was almost an adult and rarely ever home, while Damion had already moved out years before. The key here is that James did it too. He would blame things he did on me or make something up to get me in trouble when he knew how badly our parents would punish me. Generally, he was horrible to me, and I don't really consider him to be my brother after everything. Anyway, I moved in with my friend EM, 24NB, when I was 17 and never looked back. I'm still living with EM and their girlfriend if it matters. I didn't have much contact with either of my brothers until a year ago when I started talking to Damion again. He apologized for not being there or helping me when I was a teenager and wanted to try to have a relationship, and I agreed. He's been really nice, all my friends like him, and I truly feel I can call him my brother again. Recently James got my number, Damion gave it to him. He called me and asked to talk. He basically said that he wanted to make amends and invited me for dinner with his family so they could meet me. He never apologized or anything. I told him that his family is welcome to come meet me at any time, but I didn't care to meet him. He got pissed and eventually spat out that he needed my kidney. He didn't give very many details, but the gist is that he needs a new kidney as one of his failed, and Damion, who talks to James on the regular, can't give his for some reason. I don't know if he'll die without one. To be honest, I have no idea how stuff like that works, and like I said, I didn't get much info from him. I don't want to give mine though. After everything, I don't think he deserves my kidney. But I tend to be emotional about this stuff. So honest opinions, am I the idiot? Edit. I think I might be the idiot because if my brother would die be horribly sick from this, again I don't know much about it so I don't know, he does have a wife and a young daughter. Also if I'm an idiot for not really caring about him after everything. I asked Damion why he gave James my number and he claimed to not know how bad things were and thought I'd be okay with it. I told him he should have asked me first and he agreed and apologized and told me that he didn't know James would ask me that. Not the idiot. He still doesn't care about you, he just has a use for you. He can go on the donor registry like everyone else. To emphasize, you don't die just because your kidneys fail at all. You have options. You can choose between hemodialysis or peritoneal dialysis, and then you wait for a transplant, deceased donor. Nowadays people can live many years while on dialysis. I've seen some live around 40 years. While having a normal life, working, having children, and much more. Yes, your quality of life decreases and yes, of course, a transplant is the best option, but not being able to have one right away is not the end of the word. Just wanted OP to know that. That being said, holy crap, big not the idiot, regardless of the info that I just provided. Your brother is an entitled idiot. Ha 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 ha. Not the idiot. The dude couldn't even not be an idiot long enough to ask for you a body part. He clearly doesn't need it that badly. So basically James was awful to you over and over and randomly contacted you, didn't apologize, and shouted about needing your kidney. How I interpret that is he only wanted something to do with you after it could be of use to him. He doesn't see you as a brother, just a resource to make use of, not the idiot, plus can't he live with just one kidney? Oh, he already lost one of them before this, sorry I worded it weirdly lol. But yeah, what you said makes sense, thanks. You might not even be eligible, you'd still have to be tested. You have every right to just say no, but if it's easier, go get tested and tell the doctor you're unwilling. They'll then say that you're not an eligible donor, and that will be the end of it. Not the idiot. This has been causing a conflict with my entire family. And they think that I'm being selfish and unreasonable. Let me explain first. I, 39M, lost my son in 2019 due to a chronic heart condition. He was 15 years old. It was devastating and I just couldn't take it, especially when my family did little to nothing to support me during these difficult times. They didn't bring my son meals when he was at the hospital. They didn't let me go home and rest even for a few hours. They didn't take care of other things while I had a lot to deal with. I wasn't offered any help, just words. They just talk but do nothing. Despite the struggle, I created an account for my son's college fund and kept putting in whatever I could get at the time, and I and my son would talk about that a lot. He was depressed but always believed that he was going to get better and continue his education and attend college. I started saving money to keep him motivated and to make him feel like he could be like any other kid with hopes for a good future. He had a very close friend that's about the same age as him. They were friends for 5 years, and I can't express how his presence in my son's life helped him through the worst days. Sometimes his friend would spend the night with us and try to get my son to do activities and lighten up his mood all the time. To be frank, his friend was closer to him than his own family. He never stopped visiting and asking how I'm doing after my son's death. He'd show me handmade projects he made for my son as a way to remember him, and we'd sometimes just sit and talk together or cry together. Last week, while I was with my family, my sister asked me what I was going to do with my son's college money. I didn't want to mention this, but since she asked, I told her that I will be giving the money to my son's friend. She barely even recognized his friend and was confused and said that my nephew deserves this money since he's family. My mom agreed that I wasn't thinking straight and that I should help the people close to me family and that my nephew has a right to go to college and I was wrong for giving this opportunity away to someone else. I didn't know what to say. They kept pointing out that I was making a mistake and how my nephew will resent me if he finds out. The thing is, my nephew wasn't close to my son. I don't even know why he'd be bothered. My sister went on about not being able to afford my nephew's college. I told her this was my decision and I felt more comfortable that way. She started lashing out, constantly texting me, constantly wanting to talk to me, and ending up arguing. When I snapped, she had my mom calling me, basically guilt-tripping me and telling me I'm wrong and that I needed to think about this. It's just too much pressure and I'm feeling lost and unable to figure out how to deal with this. Not the idiot. Ask her what her plan was for her son's college if yours hadn't died, and then tell her to do that. You aren't obligated to do anything whatsoever with that money that you don't want to do. OP, what have I told you about chopping those onions while I'm trying to crapist for karma? Not the idiot. Whether this is a proper 529 plan or just some checking account that you tossed money into after the intended beneficiary passed away, there's nothing obligating you to pick a contingent beneficiary due to perceived familial obligation. Your nephew would be better served resenting his parents for not having the discipline nor the charisma to have thought ahead far enough to save money for his education. Not the idiot. I'm struggling to see why your sister thought it was any of her business to ask what you were doing with the college money. It's your money and you can do whatever you want with it. And yes, your reasons for giving it to your son's friend are sound. He genuinely sounds like he deserves it. My 42F ex-husband, 45M, and I were together for 20 years. We had a beautiful daughter together, Jocelyn, 14F. We got a divorce 5 years ago due to infidelity on his part. I was devastated. He was the love of my life and he betrayed all of the trust and loyalty we had built up. To make matters worse, he ended up in a relationship with the woman he cheated on me with. They got engaged 1 year later and are set to be married in 2 weeks. Honestly, I still am heartbroken over my divorce. It's hurtful to me that we were together for 20 years and he could just go fall in love with someone else as if I was nothing. However, Jocelyn was only 9 when we divorced and he's a great father, so I would never want to come in between their bond. Jocelyn loves his fiancée as she's very sweet to her, but she doesn't know the reason why her dad and I divorced. I want to tell her when she's a bit older and he doesn't want to tell her at all. Anyways, I compromised with him that Jocelyn could come to the wedding, but that he would have to provide the transportation to and from the wedding, as I want no part of it. I don't want to drop my daughter off at his wedding. I don't want to see all the decorations and the happy guests. It'd just be too much for me. I didn't tell him all of that obviously, but he agreed. Today he calls me and asks if he can ask for a huge favor. It turns out that his future in-laws are flying in the morning of the wedding and he has to go pick them up, therefore he can't pick up my daughter the day of and wanted to ask if I could take her. I said absolutely not and asked why he can't pick her up the day before when she gets off of school. He said he doesn't want to make the drive twice and that he will likely not have time as he has to prepare for the rehearsal dinner. I asked why can't the bride pick up her parents. He said she'll be getting her hair done and won't be able to. I laughed and told him there was no way I'd take my daughter and that he'd have to figure it out. Boy, why did I say that? My daughter ran downstairs crying, face beet red 10 minutes after my conversation with her dad, calling me terrible and accusing me of not wanting her to spend time with her dad. I told her that's not the case, and she demanded to know why I couldn't take her. I couldn't give her an answer, and she ran upstairs crying. Now I'm getting messages from his family calling me heartless and cold and an idiot for trying to ruin his special day over a relationship that is long over. My family understands my point of view. But I feel terrible that I've upset my daughter. I don't know what to do. Am I the idiot? Should I just put aside my feelings and take her? Not the idiot, but I also think your daughter is old enough to know the truth about her father, otherwise you will be the bad guy going forward. Also, her parents can take an Uber. It is the 21st century, after all. Not the idiot. The people he needs to pick up can get a taxi. His first responsibility should be to his daughter if he actually wants her there. And I think it might be time to tell your daughter a bit more about what happened. She's a teenager now and needs to be learning lessons about loyalty and managing relationships responsibly. Her getting the impression that this situation is all right and that you're wrong for not being happy that the ex-husband who cheated on you is getting remarried is not a good place for her to start when it comes to learning how to expect good treatment from future partners. Co-parenting doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice well-defined boundaries. Not the idiot. And 14 is old enough to understand cheating. I would tell darling daughter that while I love her and I love that she has a good relationship with her dad and her future stepmom, I can't handle seeing their wedding when they started dating while dad and I were still married.